Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this episode, we're going to be doing what I love to do most, and that is flipping and pitching shallow cover. The water's dirty. We've got a little bit of overcast, probably 10-mile-an-hour wind out of the northwest. It's a colder day. And one thing that happens, you know, this earlier this week, it was warmer, so the fish started to go up to spawn, and I was catching them on a swim jig. It was a lot of fun. But when it starts getting really cold and the water temp starts dropping, which it dropped about 5 degrees, right now it's at 60 degrees, a lot of times those fish will back up into more pre-spawn patterns and move into cover. So we've got a lot of wood cover in this lake, a lot of laydowns, and so that's what we're going to be doing today. But I wanted to do this video not just to go out and catch flipping fish, which is definitely something I'm looking forward to, but to also talk about the two main type of flipping presentations that you're going to be flipping and pitching. The first one is going to be a jig of some sort. And the second one that is most popular is going to be a traditional Texas rig paired with a variety of different soft plastic or Elastec baits. Both of these presentations have a lot of overlap, so both of them will work in a lot of the same situations, but both of them are just different enough to where there's certain scenarios where you want to choose one over the other. So we're going to be discussing that, but before we get to fishing and catching some fish, let's go ahead and talk about the tackle we've got here. For the jig, we're using a 3/8 ounce black and blue CrosseyeZ flipping jig from Zman with the black and blue bat wings on the back. We're using 25-pound test Seaguar AbrazeX. I've got this one on a 7.5 heavy action. This is actually the Brian Schmidt Carolina rig rod, but it's a rod that I'm experimenting with for flipping and pitching too, because it seems like it's legit for that. So we're kind of testing that out, and then we're using a 8.1 to 1 gear ratio reel. All right, so that's the setup for the jig. Pretty standard for fishing wood. You know, if I was fishing vegetation, I might switch over to braid, but that's about the only variation I'd make. As far as the Texas rig, we're going to be fishing the Zman Helicross today. I love this bait. It's a flapping craw style bait. Those little, those little claws, they're going to be flapping in the water as it falls. We're using a 3/8 ounce tungsten flipping weight, and then a clacking bead, a little flipping bead in between. And then we've got the Hayabusa 959 EWG hook on there. And of course we're pegging it, because whenever you're flipping and pitching a Texas rig, you want the whole package to be together, and so it can go through that cover together. So you don't want the weight separating from the bait. All right, same line as before, 25-pound test, AbrazeX. And then the rod that I'm using is really the one that I reach for the most. It's my favorite flipping stick. It's a 7.6 heavy all-purpose series rod, and then we're using a 7.2 to 1 on this one. So that is the tackle. Let's get to it. All of the tackle I just mentioned are going to be in the affiliate links in the description below, so check those out. Let's get started. Let's go flip. Oh, good fish. That didn't take long. Big pre-spawn female. There we go. Oh, 5-pounder. Pretty quick on the jig. Check that out. Wow, that was fun. That was a good start. Check that fish out. Awesome. Well, it's turning out to be exactly what I thought would happen. We've got, you know, this cover that is really close to the, let's put her back. It's really close to the spawning areas where I was catching them at earlier in the week. And these big females are staging in this cover that's real close. So a little bit deeper water, not much on this lake, I mean, we're still talking about only 3 foot, but yeah, man, pitched it to the wood here and kind of worked it out and got that bite right away. Golly, caught that one swimming. That is one of the things I love about a jig, is that you can swim it in between targets. You know, I just had some open water in between these logs here, or these laydowns, and so just made bomber cast and swam it back and caught a fish. You can do that with a Texas rig too, but I really do think that a jig just has the right profile when it's swimming to get more bites under that scenario. But that's one benefit of a jig, it's being able to swim it back. One of the drawbacks of a jig versus a Texas rig is that I don't care who you are, it's just not going to come through cover as good as a Texas rig, and that's just a fact. You know, a jig definitely comes through cover very, very well, but not nearly as good as a Texas rig, especially around grass cover. And that's one of the very distinct situations that I really tend to lean on a Texas rig over a jig is around vegetation. Now, that's not always the case. Like, I really like a jig around reeds, you know, like vertical type, you know, emergent vegetation. But the reason why I don't like a jig around dense cover or dense vegetation, or even like real dense bushes, is because a jig tends to fall in more a horizontal fashion. So it's got a horizontal fall to it, or a glide, that I think is the key to the reason why a jig is so effective for big bites, is that it has that glide, but that glide makes it less effective at going through real dense cover. You want something that goes straight down through that cover, and that's why a Texas rig does really well. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't fish a jig in real dense vegetation or bushes and stuff like that. It's still a great presentation for that. And there's some times where you can catch them really well and you can be really efficient with it. But in general, this rig isn't better. Oh my gosh, this is a giant. This is a giant. It's all about that glide. This is an 8-pounder. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Come here. Oh my gosh. This is why we love jigs. It's so wild, dude. That is a toad. I mean, that's an 8-pounder all day long on that jig. Choked it all the way down there. But I mean, that's proof that you can catch giants on jigs. Oh my gosh, that is such a beautiful fish. And then we're gonna put her back. Oh my gosh, she's so gorgeous. We gotta make sure she goes back nice and healthy. She's still gotta spawn, but that's right there why you throw a jig. But it's so important to have like open water around cover. That's why this lake, I'm out of breath. This lake is like tailor-made for flipping a jig, because you got dirty water, number one, because the jig has a lot of bulk to it, so it puts off a big signature in the water. But also because all the laydowns and the wood in this lake are pretty, you know, sparse. There's a lot of water, open water around them. So like when you pitch a jig to a piece of wood like this, it has plenty of space to be able to glide like that. And I really think that that glide gets some really big bites. So that was proof right there. I mean, that was a giant. That was a lot of fun. Holy cow. Hoo-wee. There's a fish. Oh, another good one. Almost lost that guy. Whew, nice 3-pounder on the helicross. On the helicross, man. So as much as I love the jig, and for obvious reasons, I think I throw a Texas rig probably 80% of the time when I'm flipping. Golly, that Hayabusa 959 really pegged this fish. Get the pliers out. This is one of the reasons why I like the EWG for flipping, or really any presentation that requires a wider gap. Let's put her back. Anyways, the Texas rig I probably throw like 80% of the time. And that's because a lot of times when I'm flipping and pitching, it's around real dense cover. It's not just like laydowns like this that have, you know, plenty of room in between the branches, or you know, have a lot of open water, okay? Which is, as we've already established, where I like to throw the jig. But a lot of times when I'm going shallow, it's like real thick cover. It's, you know, we're talking thick bushes, real dense, either submergent or emergent vegetation. So hydrilla, milfoil being the submergent. Emergent could be lily pads, you know, pencil reeds, anything like that, anything that grows above the surface too. And so that's why the Texas rig really is kind of the one I lean on the most. But, you know, I also fish it in situations I probably should also try a jig. And it's just because it's such an efficient tool, and I have so much fewer snags in the cover with the Texas rig, that I tend to lean on that more. But again, I do feel like even though both of these techniques are big fish techniques, I know they are, with the jig I tend to get bigger bites. But I also feel like with the Texas rig I tend to get more bites overall, and I get the bigger bites too. But that's kind of the biggest key, is like if I'm fishing really dense vegetation or dense cover, that's when the Texas rig seems to be at its best. There's a good one. There's a good one. I'll take fish like that all day long, let me tell you. That one's peeing. It's got to be a male on the bed. Golly. Once again, Hayabusa 959. All right. I'm gonna put this one back because he's bleeding a little bit. But that was another nice fish on the helicross. And let me tell you, I absolutely love the helicross. And you know, when I'm fishing in colder water, like, you know, 50s, that's when I like to go with something that's a little less active. It doesn't have as much action, like the palmetto bugs. But when it gets into the 60s, so close to spawning range or at spawning temperature, the helicross is a really, really good bait. All right, guys, so that does it for today. That was a lot of fun, especially that big one on the jig. That was legit. But hopefully this video kind of helped you understand why you might want to pick a jig over a Texas rig and vice versa. You know, both of them, again, the situations where they excel overlap quite a bit. But there's some situations for each of them where one is going to be better than the other, and so it's definitely good to have both at your disposal to you know, pick and choose for different scenarios. Even pick and choose on the same exact day, you know, because one piece of cover might be better to fish with a Texas rig over a jig. So anyways, guys, hopefully this video was number one, entertaining, and number two, very informative for you. And if you enjoy this type of content on this channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It's a great way to support the channel and to encourage me to do more content just like this. And another thing I want to mention is I do a lot of videos based on questions from viewers and topics that they want me to cover in a video. So if there is a topic you want me to cover in the next video, drop a comment below. I read all the comments, and if it's something I feel like I can touch up on, I will do so. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit those affiliate links in the description below for the products that I used today, and make sure that you trust the process. I'll see you out on the water.